17 stores open, 4 more in the pipeline. We made the decision to actually exit to Dutch Bros, a culture where people are excited to be there. They want to grow. I was out there 22 days a month since they will beat talent any day of the week. Not just talking about what you are, but being about it. Out there, and it was like, man, this sucks.
Darren Spicer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you for being here. So I want to learn more about your story. Tell us about where you grew up, where you went to school. Did you play any sports as a kid? Walk us through your story.
Sure. A lot of sports as a kid. So born and raised in Oregon, in Roseburg, Oregon. My brother and I grew up playing football, basketball, baseball, golf, street hockey, like you name it, we did it. So always super active, but born and raised in Oregon. I graduated and went to University of Oregon to continue. I played basketball and focused on sports marketing and business degree. So grew up there, graduated from Oregon, and then I moved down to California. My first job out of college was in the NBA, working for the Sacramento Kings in ticket sales. And did that, and then got into medical device sales after that for about 7 years, but still had a passion to want to start my own drive-thru coffee business from having worked as a barista at Dutch Bros when I was younger. So that kind of was still a bug that I wanted to explore a bit, and ended up starting my own drive-thru coffee chain in 2018.
Very cool. And would you say there's any lessons that you learned from basketball that you found valuable in your entrepreneurial success?
Yeah, I mean, I think teamwork is a huge piece. You can't go do things by yourself, right? In basketball, it's 5 people working together. And I think there's a lot of that in business of, you can try to be a solopreneur, but you usually can go further when you've teamed up with really good people to work as a unit. So I think that's one. And then the second thing I would say is just overcoming hard stuff, right? Doing things that, you may not want to go to practice every day. You may not want to show up to work every day and do something, but consistency is really key. And just continuing to show up and bring your best effort each day.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote by this athlete, Nick Bear. He runs a company called Bear Performance Nutrition. And he says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
100%. I actually used that quote with someone last week because we were talking about something we're working on right now. And it's just like the team, like I could own a bigger piece of it myself, but going together as a team, I think we'll be able to accomplish a lot more. So totally agree.
Very cool. And was there like a certain moment in your childhood maybe or growing up that you knew you wanted to do something entrepreneurial with your life?
I don't know if there was so much in my childhood. I think it was after working like for professional companies, and then you could say like in corporate America, where I'm like, man, like if I think I could do something better, like can I just be the ultimate like responsible party and have my own thing? So I actually had wanted to franchise Dutch Bros from having worked there when I was younger, and so that was actually the goal, was to franchise that, and not even necessarily start my own. But then they changed the model and they took away franchising. And that's kind of what was the catalyst to lead me to want to start my own. So I think I kind of knew at that point where it was like, hey, let's go for this and kind of do my own thing. And yeah, now I'm not sure I'll ever go back. So.
Yeah. Did your parents push you in any particular direction?
No. I mean, they were very supportive of whatever we wanted to do. They knew I was really passionate about sports marketing and business. And so that's kind of what led me to going to junior college and playing basketball, and then transferring to Oregon because I wanted to get a degree from the sports marketing program there. So they just supported and encouraged, and tried to instill some really good work ethic values. I wouldn't say I had the best work ethic when I was really young, but that changed over time when I got into my early 20s, and now you kind of have to like pry my phone or my work away from me to get me to actually like do other things. So.
Were there any values that your parents tried instilling in you as a kid that you might have found ridiculous back then, but you found valuable later on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the consistency piece, like not quitting anything. Like if I didn't want to do something, or you started something, it's like, hey, you're going to finish it. Like we don't want to build a habit early of starting something, not seeing it through. I mean, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from finishing something and completing it. So I think that was something that you probably, think about it in that lens when you're younger. And then later on, you're like, okay, these are habits that you want to have where you see something through, right? It shows people that you can be consistent and that you deliver on things. Even if it's not the most exciting thing or it didn't turn out to be what you wanted it to be, you still get the job done.
Do you want to tell us more about Clutch and where you got the idea from for that?
Yeah, I mean, so again, it was spawned out of Dutch Bros stopping franchising. I was actually working in their prerequisite program. It was like a 12-month long program where you had to be a manager for a year before you could be eligible. And 9 months into that 12-month program is when they changed the model for the last time, and they said there's going to be no more franchising. So that kind of was the catalyst to say, okay, like, well, I'm passionate about this. If I can't do that and be it, and I wanted to have actual equity, right? I wanted to actually own. So I'm like, if I can't do that, then I want to start my own. So that kind of pushed me to get my ducks in a row and work on that. I left Dutch Bros, spent about 2 years with two partners getting our ducks in a row to organize everything. Um, and that kind of was the lead into getting Clutch off the ground in 2018. We grew from March 3rd of 2018 all the way through January of this year in 2026, and grew to 17 stores open. We had 4 more in the pipeline, and that's when we made the decision to actually exit to all people to Dutch Bros. So it was kind of a full circle moment there, and that was their first acquisition.
And how would you say that Clutch differed from, like, say, your average Starbucks, for instance?
Much more focused on the customer experience. I think Starbucks is largely transactional, and we were really focused on having an amazing experience. Of course, an amazing product. I mean, I would put the quality up against them any day of the week, but that experience from the time you get in line and we have a runner outside taking that order face to face and a genuine interaction, all the way up to the window where at Clutch, the window stays open. We have someone dedicated there who's engaging in a conversation while your drink's being made. And that, I mean, makes the time kind of feel like it's going by faster as well, but truly engaging in that relationship. Whereas Starbucks, you're going to order at the speaker board, you're going to pull up to the window, they'll open it to take your money, they'll close it, turn their back, and then bring your drink back. And so that disconnect there gave us a huge advantage to deliver a lot better experience.
And on that note, I was curious to dig in more to, you guys have the 3 C's: customer, culture, and community.
Mhm.
Could you tell us more about what each of those represent and why you guys came up with those values?
Yeah. So number one on the customer, right? It's anything and everything we do behavior wise. Everything that guides us should be about with the customer as having them as in mind and what's in the best interest of them. So everything we do being focused on the customer, I think is huge. The culture is what we do and how we act and treat each other every day, both internally and to our customers, and building a culture that people wanted, that were actually excited to come to work, versus something where you're like, oh, like I don't want to go in, my boss sucks, I don't like my coworkers. Like, can we create an environment that's fun, right? Energetic. We've got good, they get to choose a lot of the music that they're playing while we're working, and you get to interact with customers who, if you do a great job, are likely to tip you as well. So it's a great setup there. And then community, we just firmly believe that we have a responsibility to be a good steward in the community. So a lot of local givebacks, things that were actually tangible at a local level, supporting local education. Any new store we open, we would almost always partner with a local high school. Schools are usually always underfunded, and partner with them. And we would do a give back day where we donated 100% of any money we would make to the school. No strings attached. We just want to be a good steward in the community and come out on the right foot. So doing lots of local things to have an impact, I think, in that local community was important.
Wow. I guess on that note, one thing that I've been learning a lot about lately, especially with leadership, is the topic of cultivating culture. Are you able to give us some pointers on how do you actually build a culture within a company? Like, what does that look like concretely?
I think part of it is defining it up front and labeling it and saying, here's who we are and here's what we stand for and here's what we're about. Defining your core values, and then you have to live those out every day. So one of our mantra at Clutch was like, we exist to serve positive energy. And that can take a lot of forms, right? Yes, it's technically like energy in terms of caffeine, but it's also emotional energy, mental energy in terms of investing into each other and the relationship with customers. But I think it's defining what you are and what you stand for, but then you have to live it out every day. So it's not saying, oh, we are the best in this. Great. Like, can we act out and do the things each day and treat each other in the way? And that comes over time where it's multiple opportunities to reinforce or prove that that's what it's about. It's not just saying it's your actual actions that lead it. So the right people that are leading and embodying those core values is how you kind of build that culture over time.
How do you maintain that culture as the size of the company grows, as you guys bring on more people?
Protect it at all costs. It's the hardest thing to build and the easiest thing to lose. And I think, again, it comes down to people. So if you have the right people and the right leaders with the right structure, you can be very successful. If you let a bad apple sour the rest of the bunch, or you have the wrong leaders in place, that can cause a lot of friction quickly. So if you have identified that and that happens, you've got to address it quickly and course correct it, or you have to, what we would say, promote that person to customer, which means get them out of the organization, because you can't let that spoil the rest of the group.
It's interesting that we're on this note of teamwork and leadership because there's an entrepreneur out of Austin, and if you're familiar with her, Cody Sanchez, and she is big on teaching people how to take these main street businesses like HVAC, plumbing, pest control, and buy, scale, and sell them. But one of the things she says is that your job as CEO, whether you recognize it or not, is to build a company that runs better than without you. How do you build a company that runs better without its leader at the helm?
Again, right people, and right processes and the right structure, I think. So if you've got, point in case, like the remote staffing business that we have, I literally spend 1 hour a week on it. And that's not even hyperbole. Like, it's actually 1 hour a week. But we put processes and in place that the right people implement and the right people run those things. So they run those things. We meet once a week to go over things we need to do, what needs to be accomplished, what happened the previous week. And so it effectively runs better than if I was doing all the blocking and tackling myself. So the right people, empower those people, and have the right structure and processes for them to be set up for success.
It seems like you guys had a very mission-oriented company that you built at Clutch. I was wondering how you go about recruiting people who are aligned with that mission and how you go about retaining that top talent.
Recruiting wise, I think it's looking for the intangibles. There's certain things you can't teach, right? You typically can't teach someone that has natural energy and enthusiasm and positive, goodwill. The things you can't teach, like, does someone show up on time, right? Are they consistent, or is someone habitually late to things? And that was even things that we evolved, like as a leader myself, like to try to grow over time, where I had to get tighter on those things to lead by example. So I think looking for intangibles, like if someone's got the right attitude and the right energy, the right ability to like be consistent, and they're coachable, we can teach anything else. Everything else can be taught. I would take that 8 days a week over someone who's like, well, I have the long resume as a barista, but I have a bad attitude, right? Or they're not coachable to say, well, here's how we did it at my last place. That's cool. Here's how we do it at Clutch. So those things, I think, are what we look for when we're trying to recruit the right people. And then retaining them ties back to the culture. Do you have the right culture where people are excited to be there, they want to grow, and can you show them a pathway of where they can grow, right? To say, hey, here's the roadmap. You're here now, but if you continue to invest in and grow and do the right things, here's where you can get to.
I really like that. I've actually been reading a book by Eric Jorgensen called The Book of Elon, where he basically studied Elon throughout all the years from Zip2, Tesla, to now SpaceX. And one of the things that Elon talks about in the book is that he put too much of an emphasis on hiring people for skill and not enough on whether someone had a good heart. And he makes a very similar point. Like, attitude is not something that you can train.
Yeah.
Really.
No, because the attitude that you're talking about, they're going to bring that into the workspace, whether it's in person or remote, every day. So you have to, if it's positive, it's a value add. If it's negative, it's a detriment and can hinder the rest of the company in ways that make other people less productive. So yeah, fully agree with that. It's a hot take.
I saw this quote the other day, and it was something along the lines of bosses use you, leaders develop you. How did you guys go about not only training people, but helping them develop as individuals during their time at Clutch?
Yeah, I think investing into them in a way that gives them life skills that they'll take beyond your four doors. So a lot of our employees would go somewhere else. They were at Clutch for a couple years, maybe up to 5 years, depends. But they would take those skills with them wherever they were going. So investing into them, not just for the benefit of Clutch, but for them as a person and as a human, to build them as a leader. And I think that's like, you look at like coaching trees, and the best coaches are okay letting those assistants go. Or those other coaches like Nick Saban at Alabama, like his coaching tree, there's probably a dozen coaches that are head coaches other places that worked under him previously, right? His level of success didn't drop off because he had the right system and the right people and the right ability to grow and develop more. But it's almost the best compliment you can get if someone does leave the nest and go somewhere, because you've empowered them, right? And it shows a culture of like, hey, we want you to be successful. We're not just trying to harbor you just for, our company. I think it leaves a really strong impression on people that you really care about the right things.
Do you think things like drive and hunger are things that can be cultivated within a person, or do you think it's just something that people are born with? I'm curious to like hear your thoughts on that.
I think it can be developed a bit. I mean, initially, I think people kind of have it or they don't. Drive wise, I think some of that can be developed over time, but it's a huge advantage if someone is a go getter and you don't have to ask, you don't have to be reactive and ask them to do. I mean, there was one of my consulting clients right now has someone managing a branch of their business that is incredibly reactive. And so then they find out about fires that are going on 1 or 2 days before they have a big deliverable due, versus someone that's proactive that says, hey, 1 week out, that says, we have an issue here, we need to address it. I don't have the answer, but we need to work on it together. So I do think it can be developed, but it's a huge head start if someone has that intangible.
Are there any character traits you've seen time and time again in those exceptional individuals?
Yeah, I mean, the intangibles, I think, like the consistency, the coachability. The biggest thing I think is like, do you have a positive and an infectious enthusiasm for life? Like, if you are excited to be somewhere, I mean, you could be literally like the guy that goes and picks up trash, but you are stoked to get it done. There's something to be said for that, where you're just excited and you bring that energy that can spawn off onto other people. And I think those things and being really organized are the things I've probably seen that are the most recurring, I would say.
Why'd you guys choose South Carolina of all places?
Yeah, so prior to starting Clutch, I had worked in medical sales, and so I had covered a lot of different areas of the country. Had spent time in Nashville and Charlotte, and so we had targeted those two areas as younger cities, younger demographic, growing cities. The real estate cost was more affordable, minimum wage was lower, so just less barriers to entry, less competition to start, and easier and more business friendly than, say, West Coast states. So we focused there to start, and got our first opportunity there, and it made it a little bit easier to grow the right way.
Was there ever a moment that you genuinely thought Clutch wouldn't survive?
I don't know if there was ever a moment where it was like, oh man, we may not be able to do this. We usually had, you know, we had a backup plan to the plan. If something went off the rails, it's like, okay, what are we going to do here? Um, there was one point in time where one of our co-founders made it really challenging in terms of growth, and getting things done. Where it was like, if we don't take action, this could be not healthy for the business long term. So we did take action on that. But beyond that, I don't think there was a spot where we were concerned about Clutch and its existence in general.
How did COVID impact you guys? Were there additional obstacles that you guys had to overcome?
Yeah, supply chain sucked. That was rough, because everything got backlogged and things became harder to get and to facilitate because of all the protocols. So that part was challenging, but we were a pretty big beneficiary from COVID, in the sense of like, our business model was already set up as drive-through and takeaway. So it made it very easy for people that could still come out. If we had been a sit-down cafe, we would be dead in the water. But because we were drive-through, that was a huge advantage for us. So I think if I remember correctly, our year-over-year sales during the first COVID year, if you will, we jumped like 35% on year-over-year sales.
Can you walk us through what a typical grand opening day would look like at Clutch and why you guys did that?
Yeah, grand opening is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with free drinks all day. So we would typically do about 2,500 free drinks in that 12-hour span. So our crew would get there between 6:30 and 7. We're also getting the DJ set up as well because we have it's a party and we have him set up outside to just bring the energy for the whole day. So we'd get set up between 6:30 and 7. I'm usually coming in bringing Chick-fil-A for the whole crew to get them fired up. This is always on a Saturday, and we'd have a powwow at about 7:30, 7:45, right before we open. Just talking about what our goals are for the day, how we're going to rock it. Things are going to get bumpy at a certain point, but we got to stick together and do it because it's going to get busy and chaotic. And then we would all go either shotgun an energy drink or take a double shot of espresso together and get ready to serve people. And then it's 12 hours. You're on your feet the whole day. You might sit down here or there a little bit, but by the time that day is done, you are mentally, emotionally, physically wiped. But you served, 2,500 free drinks to people who are excited for your brand to be there.
Okay, I love that.
It's a lot of fun.
So you were building Clutch on the East Coast and your family is on the West Coast.
Yeah.
How did you reconcile managing both business and family responsibilities?
My wife's the MVP on that, so shout out to Kristen there. But in that regard, I mean, when we started the business, I didn't have any kids. A year and a half, just almost a year and a half into the business is when we had our daughter. And so we kept the family anchored in California because we had a great support system with my wife's family, a lot of family in a 30-minute radius to really help. And so I continued to help grow the business. And then I was out there 22 days a month leading up to having kids. Then that tapered down to about a 50-50 with kids. And then COVID hit, which kind of put a halt to a lot of stuff for a little bit. So coming out of that, I would say I was out there about a third of the time. And then as we grew and had more responsible layers, it got down to where the last leg of Clutch, I was out there 1 week a month. But I was able to effectively manage things from my home office in California. But because it's an East Coast business, I was at my desk by 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. And as the ultimate backstop of the company. So got really trained on getting after it early, and the days end a little bit earlier, which is nicer, but you're up early getting after it.
How do you think young people should reconcile their desire for professional growth with starting a family? Because it seems like there's two extremes to that. On the one extreme, there's like, I'll wait as long as possible to have kids. But on the other extreme, it seems like something that you should at least plan or take into consideration too in your 20s.
Yeah. I don't think there's a perfect time to have kids. I think it's different for everybody. If you try to wait for the perfect time, I just don't think it exists. So at a certain point, there's other external factors, right? Like father time in terms of like, hey, there's a certain period that, it becomes a lot more challenging to have kids after a certain point. So I think it's just making sure you're on the same page with your partner and you have a good idea of what it's going to look like. Again, my wife was the MVP on a lot of it where, like, not even a joke, like our second kid, like, I think I literally took one day off. And then, I mean, I was still present at home, right? So like outside of still putting in time at work, I was helping with naps and changing diapers and cleaning bottles and all the things, but I didn't take like a paternity leave. So like my wife was the MVP on that, but being on the same page as your partner on what your goals are in terms of size of family, general timing, right? Who's doing what, a lot more dependent on the mom to start than the dad in most situations, but yeah, being on the same page and then just having mutual respect and support that, like when our first kid was born, I wasn't needed, but I got up with every feeding at night, every 2 hours, just as moral support to be there and to do that. And so just having a lot of respect and mutual support, I think goes a long ways.
What would you say is the biggest mistake that you made building Clutch, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest mistake. I would say the biggest mistake would be not not being comfortable enough to say no to things as your journey continues. So if you don't feel that something's right or that it's going to put you in a good spot, you have to be more comfortable and confident to just say no, versus being sold on something or swept into, you know, hey, here's what we can do and it's going to be great. And it's like you have to kind of challenge and poke holes and make sure you actually believe the validity of it. So I would say the biggest mistake was uh, taking as long as I did to get comfortable with saying no to certain things. Got better at it over time, but if I had been more comfortable doing that, there's a chance that Clutch could have exited for a larger valuation.
What are some of the principles or values that you live by?
Um, Generally speaking, I would say uh, you got to find like whatever it is you're going to do, find something you enjoy that you want to be at. Um, for me, being incredibly consistent is huge because I think that in the same as in sports, right? If you lead by example every day, that speaks much more volume than saying you're going to do something or talking about it, right? If you're the first one in the building, the last one out, that's kind of what we call like the quarterback mentality. That speaks volumes where like nobody will outwork you. And then it gives you leverage and ability to ask things of other people when needed, where it's like you're not sitting in an ivory tower asking them to do things that you wouldn't do. So I think consistency, and then just genuinely being a servant leader is probably the biggest thing. Like if you serve others, and I just firmly believe like whatever you put into other people, you'll get back tenfold as life goes on and as you grow with them. And just doing the right thing there will make people want to work alongside you long term.
It reminds me of two quotes that I've read in a handful of books, but one of them is that you don't need talent to be consistent, but you need consistency to succeed at anything in life. It's by an athlete in Austin called Nick Bare. And the other one was a book called No Rules Rules by the co-founders of Netflix, and they say that we want big-hearted champions who take out the trash. In other words, your job as a leader is not to sit back in your pretty office, but it's being willing to do the dirty work and not asking anyone to do things you yourself are not willing to do.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
it's funny on the trash one because that's literally when I'd go into any Clutch location, the first thing I would do, like after saying hi to everybody, is I would look to see if their trash or their recycling was full. And again, it's because it's about the lowest grade. It's about the lowest grade thing that you um, can do in that regard. But it was like just leading by example to be like, hey, you guys, the trash is full. Let me take that out, right? And then someone's like, wait, that's the founder of the company, and he's just taking the trash out. Like that's kind of the approach I would say that I tried to lead. So yeah, very much agree on that in terms of being. I mean, consistency will beat talent any day of the week.
what lessons have you learned from building a company about being a great leader?
I think genuinely caring about people and not just saying, "Hey, we really like culture is a." Every brand has a culture. Some suck, some are great, and some are in between. But you know, not just talking about what you are or what you want to be, but being about it. And so if we could say, hey, we have a great culture here, we could say, hey, um, we have a culture that we want, that we believe will help set you up for success. And you have to show that through your everyday actions. So um, I would say in terms of like what I've learned, it's being a servant leader, setting the right expectations, and then communication is huge too. We're just so big on communication. Um, if we can be transparent and have the right communication, we'll be in a very healthy spot to grow as a unit. If we don't have that communication, that becomes more challenging. So, uh, being open, leading by example, having great communication and great expectations is probably the bucket of things I would say were the most important.
How do you think your definition of success has changed from the time you were in your early 20s to where you are now?
I mean, I would say like early 20s, the definition of success was like I had worked really hard to get into professional sports and then work in the NBA. And then I got there and it was like, and I actually performed very well, but I was like, man, this sucks. Like it was sexy on the outside, but not the same inside, and kind of took away some passion. So I would say like success is less about, oh, I landed this one specific job or title, but more about the success being the relationships you have, the doors that open, and the things that you can achieve in different ways together. That that combined with like family aspect would be much more of what I would say is more successful than saying, oh, I'm now the president or the CEO of a certain company or have a certain role. The relationships are like the most valuable. And then seeing those people succeed when you've gone in different directions or they've left the nest to go somewhere, that's like really rewarding as well.
So I want to end the podcast focusing more on the future. What are some of the values that you are trying to instill in your kids that you think will help them live fulfilling, purpose-driven lives?
Great question. And there's a couple key things I think for us, for my wife and I talking to our kids. We're huge on respect and gratitude. So having, it's hard to teach kids too to have perspective on that, right? Where their friend got something and they want to get it, or they are upset they didn't get a certain toy, and it's like showing gratitude for the other 82 toys that we have here already. But big on please and thank you. And there's a really cool brand called Kid Strong that we have them go to every single week. And it's 45 minutes. It's based on physical activity, but it also teaches life skills. So they start off each one by having they make eye contact, they shake hand like, hey, I'm Darren, nice to meet you. And these are like, my kids are 5 and 7. So teaching these values, getting them comfortable doing those things, teach them how to order at a restaurant, right? Can you look them in the eye and say, can I please have the cheeseburger with fries, right? A lot of those little things. So respect and gratitude. And then, not complaining is what we're working on right now. And then I think the other one is, if we start something, we finish it, and we have to learn how to be a gracious loser too. So we play board, we'll play a board or a card game a few nights a week. And then if one of our kids loses, right, like, can you be a gracious loser? Because you're going to lose plenty in life. You'll also win, but how do we handle those is kind of what reveals your character.
So one of the reasons that I started this podcast, and I think is a big problem right now in the modern world, is that there's a lot of young people who are really ambitious, but they're not clear on what they want to do in the future. It seems like the world is changing faster than it ever has before. I wanted to ask you, knowing everything that you know now as an adult, what advice would you give to young people nowadays to focus their energy on?
I mean, I would say find what you're passionate about, like find something that you would enjoy going to do for the next 2, 5, 10 years. Because if you don't enjoy it, it's not gonna reach its potential. You're gonna feel like it's actual work. I would say for younger people too, if you believe in it and you have a good plan, be willing to take more risks at a younger age. You're closer to zero there than you'll ever be in your life, hopefully, in the future. So you have your risk factor. You're able to do more of those where if you start something, I mean, that was our approach in Clutch. It was like, if we fail, we'll fail fast. And I'll go back to doing med device sales. And no one's ever going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you had the guts to go start your own company, right? If anything, it's like, dang, that, a lot of people think about it, but don't take the action. So enjoy what you do. Find something you enjoy doing. Build a really good plan if you want to do it, whether you start it or whether you join a company, and be willing to take, strategically take more risk when you're younger because you have less to lose.
Yeah. Well, Darren Spicer, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Well, that's clutch. Oh, I got it in my cup. That's clutch. Take a little sip, I'm powered up. That's clutch. Only good vibes here with us. That's clutch. Yeah, that's clutch. Yeah, that's